what is it? Usually when people think about life, they think about humans, animals, fish, and everything that we know on the world known as Earth. But what if there's a type of thing we're not thinking of that's outside of Earth? These things are known as aliens. When we think alien, everyone thinks extraterrestrial, have movies after them, even one called E.T. But is this what we're looking for? Is this what they look like when they're out there? Probably not. When we look for things, we're probably going to find single-celled organisms on other planets and moons and such. Single-celled organisms, maybe a few multi-celled, very primitive, like when life first would have started on Earth. What's the one thing on Earth we have is water. Water is the essential thing to all life as we know it, at least for here on Earth. We use it. Humans, we are 70% made of water. Most animals drink it. Fish live in it. Without water, you cannot have life. So where can we find life? Where can we find water would be the best example. Well, let's take a look at one of our closest planets to us and see what we can find there. If there's any source of life there, since it's so close, you would think there might be there. So we'll take a look now at Mars. Mars, as everyone knows, we actually sent a rover there. It takes about 200 days to travel there. When we got there, it was very fascinating. It was the first time landing on an extraterrestrial planet, and we did a lot of exploring. The main exploring we did, of course, is with the rover. What we have found is dried up river streams where it looks like a river would have ran at one time. Even recently, we've even found ice on Mars. Other places that we've checked for water include Saturn on the moon known as Enceladus. We see that this has a ton of water, and like Mars in itself, we see water. We have yet to find any life. Mars has very little water, found none, and then Enceladus has a lot of water. We still have found none. So where else should we search? Well, we have to go outside our solar system. This is one thing that gets a little tricky because now, of course, distance is a huge factor. How far do we go? Which galaxy? Due to the whole new universe. The main thing we're looking for is for habitable zones. These are zones that scientists believe a planet could be in and actually to contain life. It has to be a certain size of a planet and a certain distance to the sun, and it has to be very accurate. One thing we talk about is Earth-sized planets. As we see, there's over 40 billion Earth-sized planets that we have found. This is very good news. When you think about it, it makes sense the amount of stars there are. And for these 40 billion Earth-sized planets, 11 billion of them are around sun-like stars. That means we have 11 billion planets that could possibly be in the habitable zone. Now, one of the main tricky parts there is going to be traveling. How will we get to these things that could be light years away? A light year, for if you don't know how fast it goes, is 671 million miles per hour. The fastest humans have been able to go in space is 24,000 miles per hour. So, can we survive the trip? Probably not. So we need robots. We're going to send robots out. And this still may take upwards of 40 years going as fast as we can just to find any form of life. But once we find life, and if it's smart enough, how do we communicate with it? Can a robot that we send with the CPU and the processor be smart enough to communicate with anything? Or is it just going to be too dumb and they're not even going to realize what it is? And aren't the aliens might be a little confused? Also because how they act. When they see this robot, they might think, oh, this is the extraterrestrial life that has come to our planet. Which, in retrospect, no, it's not, but they will not know the difference. One of the main things is, when we're doing all this, do the rules matter? Why does our rules, like we say they has to be in this habitable zone, but that's just for us. We say water has to be there, but we just know that for humans. And also, so if the rules don't apply to them, what could these creatures look like? As far as we know, we always see something being like a humanoid on land, either on 2 or 4 feet, and then walks upright or is just bent over. Also, when we find these things, is it worth it? The amount of money we would be spending to travel to distant galaxies or universes, it could be a huge black hole just sucking in all the money, and we might not even be able to communicate, and we might get a video if it's not interrupted. But the greatest fear is, what if we do all this and there's nothing? And we figure out Earth is the only planet with life outside of the universe.